we need to take a good, hard look at it and make sure that it makes sense for you all and us and for our citizens. So,
I have a question for Cheryl. Cheryl, do you have a recommendation of what we should do tonight?
I think one of the things that we have that we're in the process of doing, I think we're at a little bit of a disadvantage in that we're trying to kind of develop the comprehensive plan for the city, and we don't have an annexation agreement with Edgerton. So a little bit of a disadvantage trying to get to a recommendation before we have those pieces in place. It's probably not exactly what you want to hear, but we're trying to make decisions on parcels without kind of the larger vision. Probably would be good if we could start to get some of those pieces at least underway so that we have a real good feel for where we'd like to go and what happens with annexation with Edgerton.
let me ask you this.
I would agree.
Let me.
I would agree.
All right, Steve, get to you in just a second.
Put your hand down, Steve.
Yeah, put your hand down, Steve. But here's what I'm wondering is that when you look at this map and you look at the east side of the intermodal project, and is there anything that's going to go into their 88-acre parcel or anything that's going to go south of their 80-acre parcel that's going to be anything other than industrial development? Can you see another use for that property? Mike, can you see?
I don't think it's just that parcel. I think it's what you want to look at along 183rd, and we've talked about kind of the transition there, and how you buffer the single-family residential that's on 83rd to the industrial use. And we've had some good dialogue with Edgerton about that.
Well, that's good.
It's not the corner, it's the piece just east of there.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. What I'm talking about is the ones that are just east of Waverly, just west of what you're talking about. Anything that butts up onto the intermodal property.
Industrial.
It's industrial property.
Well, but I mean, that's what the purpose of the comprehensive plan is.
Sure.
To decide what we want that to be, right?
And how you transition.
I mean, you don't want
What
it
happens
Oh, no.
right next to houses. Certainly,
No.
that's not the best fit, is it?
Well, no, and that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that piece.
But I think the part, well, at least from my perspective, that we're missing, for a couple of things, and I agree with Cheryl, I think that would be perfect. However, I think to continue to hold people hostage because of our slow movement on things is not right. I mean, we've been talking about a comprehensive plan now for 2 years, haven't done it. So, and then the second thing is, this property is not annexed. We can sit here and we can
Right.
say, this is what we want to do, but the fact is, if the landowner doesn't agree, then, I mean, to get it annexed to Gardner, then it's not going to be annexed. So, I mean, I get all this conversation. I think that's definitely the right way to go, but I don't think it's right to continue to hold people hostage because we haven't moved forward with some decisions.
Well, it's either way, whether it's right or not, it's the responsible thing to do. Much like the request to have the cost-benefit analysis done before we act on it. I mean, it's no different than that, really.
So waiting 6 months for a comprehensive plan to me is a lot different than asking for a couple-week cost-benefit analysis, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Well, we did it. We haven't had one since, what was the last time we had the comprehensive plan? A real one, like 98 or something like that, 2002?
We have a community development plan, and it's a comprehensive plan. It's just not up to date. There have been certain actions to update that comprehensive plan, but it has not kept up with the changes that have occurred. And so, really, there's a need for a comprehensive plan. Keep in mind that a comprehensive plan, we think that it will take 12 months to do that. At the same time, so that's.
Well, and
I think that answers the question.
And there again, I know we've got an RFP out. I know we have responses. Is it going to be coming before council sometime soon?
Yes.
Okay. And it needs to be done, and I think that everybody agrees about that, and I think we need to have discipline once we have it established in following it. And I think the most important thing at this point is the cost-benefit analysis, and then understanding that while we want to have transitions between the intermodal property and the housing, and I know this affects you, Cheryl, you live in Fairfield, you know, at the same time, the property that we're talking about this evening, and that's going to be an industrial property, and if we've got a good cost-benefit analysis on it, then we've got something to really think about.
I think that's the key, but, you know, the 12 months, I cringed when I heard it, and I know Tracy did, and I know I did, wasn't it? But, when you can look at, in my opinion, and I may be off the reservation, but in my opinion, you can look at this parcel of land, and its uses, because of the development, is almost dictated to us. And we can work on this parcel of land and let it dictate what happens further in the comprehensive plan. It can, we don't need to wait 12 months to know kind of what this land is going to be, because I'm not sure how much mileage is between that. It's close enough to walk, and I can almost run that far without having a heart attack, so it's not far at all. So we can't hide from that. The land is purchased for that purpose. We don't need to wait for that piece to be done. We can move this parcel. If we have the cost analysis and we see that there are, where the benefits are, how this land needs to be developed, how it could be absorbed somewhere else, then we can make a decision without that part being in place. I don't think we need to wait for both to come together. And that's not being irresponsible, actually, that's being more responsible by not dragging your feet, waiting for the totality of the 45 square miles that was in the first slide that showed sections 1 through 6, or however many that square miles that tended out to be, when this is just a small parcel that's almost dictated with the way it's going to work because of the development just to the east or west.
How do you
of it.
know that? I mean, how do you know that that's going to be industrial?
Well,
It could also be office park, right? I mean, if it goes gangbusters inside the intermodal, which is definitely a more suitable place to develop inside the intermodal park, what's to say that all those people servicing the intermodal won't make that an office park?
The nice thing is
That's-
Is that a question? I would say if you look at other in developments like this around the country, there's no office around them. They are industrial.
Yeah, that would be
Industrial
atypical.
parks. Yeah.
Yeah, the Argentine Railroad Yards, I grew up in Roland Park, I wasn't far from there, there isn't any office around there. There's office in North Kansas City, but it's on the other side of Oak Street from where the railroad yards are. You know, office doesn't ideally locate right next to rail facilities. I lived in Jacksonville, and there was a port facility there, and there wasn't any office buildings across the street from the port.
I had another question. Just looking at this proposal as it's, have you worked with any developments where there were qualifiers in the financing, where there were some employment requirements, or there might have been average salary requirements, or there may have been, not population, but percentage leased out requirements? And have you worked in those sort of situations before?
There have been people in our office that have been in similar situations to that. Yeah, it varies widely. But, yeah.
Right, and absolutely, but I think that's something that we need to look at to see, okay, if we're going to go beyond our 50%, we talked about within our policy right now, we can go beyond that, but if we're going to do so, there is the give and the take, and we'd love to be a partner, but here's what we expect from the partnership, and if you reach these things, these expectations, we've worked that together. It's not us saying you got to have 5,000 jobs, and if it's not, then you don't get the piece of it. But if it's a reasonable goal that we've both worked together on, I know it's a little bit harder as a developer because you're not sure as a spec building who's going to come in and how many people they employ.
That's just it, yeah.
But there's some pieces in there that we can work at, because you can look at your past successes and understand what those averages wage may be. So that might be the qualifier there in a spec building. When we're working on one-to-one, where they're the people that own the building, run the business, they'll have a different way to look at it. But we need to look at ways like that, so when we look at the relationships and the partnerships, that mutual benefit is there, and that goes back into the cost. But there's pieces for us to go beyond just our 50% policy and exactly what we're going to look like that, and ask for in return to go beyond that when we go and build a plan together.
I agree with Heath on that. Also, I had a question. How firm are the 6 points? Are you negotiable, or is this all or nothing? I mean, how firm? Like, could we add stuff to it, or could you?
Sure, we think these are the things that we need to compete. We are in a competitive market. So this game is a pennies and nickels game, meaning, you know, if you look at the rent on these deals, it's around $4, and if our building's at $4.05 and the one down the street's at $3.95, we're going to lose every time. And so the market kind of dictates